Welcome all to this edition of 5 Midfield with myself, Gav Mack, got Alex Osborn and Stephen Buck down there in the bottom there. Stephen, how are you, pal?
I'm good, mate. You? How you doing?
Yeah, welcome back. Good to see your internet stuff sort itself out. It's going to be my turn in a minute. How are you, Alex? Not like I haven't seen you for ages. It's only been the best part of 3 hours?
Do we need to get him on sign language?
Are you there, Alex? He looks lost. Alex, you there? You there, dude? Four, then it's Buck, and then where's Alex?
I don't know.
Is not there. Well, I'm hoping that he can leave and come back in the room and everything will be fine and dandy at that point. But this week we are going to be talking about the top 5 transfer flops of all time. And I'm hoping Alex is going to be back in any couple of moments' time now. He's left the room and he'll be back in a minute. So I think that pretty much explains that Buck, you could go first.
Yeah, cheers, thanks for that.
Let's give it a second. Let's hope that Alex can get back in the room sooner rather than later, because I've got his list here. It's pretty funny, to be fair. So without any further ado, is he going to come back in the room? No, Buck, yeah, just kick him off, son. Who's your number 5? Top 5. Oh, before we go, actually, I must say that if you look underneath on the rolling ticker tape, you'll be able to see all our social media links as well. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all at Top Football and the hashtag TUTF. Right then, number 5 on your list of worst transfer flops of all time, Bucky.
So I'm kicking off with a former Spurs player. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, yeah.
Roberto Soldado.
Oh, Soldado, yeah.
So the story behind this guy is obviously
Spurs. Good player.
Well, he was before he turned up and we ruined him, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So the story behind this guy is he was part of the 7 wondrous squads as Spurs squandered the £84 million that they got from the Gareth Bale money. They needed goals. They went for a goal scorer that I think he'd banged in something like 60 goals over 3 seasons over in Spain. So
which is all right, 20 goals a season. You take that.
Absolutely, you take that. Even if you went, well, he might only get 15 in the Prem, we'll still take that. That's what we needed. They broke their transfer record for him. And he turned up and pretty much couldn't hit a barn door. You know, his first 3 goals were all from penalties. And I think he only scored another 3 goals in open play, and he's never really recovered. So, you know, Spurs absolutely ruined his confidence over the time that he was with the club. He's obviously gone off. I think he was playing for, might be Villarreal over in Spain recently. And he's starting to find a little bit of his old self, but realistically,
he's an old man now. He's what, 35?
No, I don't think he's old.
36? No, he's old, mate.
33.
He is old. He's old as sin, honestly. But I'll see why he's in your list. Who's your number 4?
So my number 4, I went for Andrei Shevchenko.
Shevers, interesting.
Shevers. So he did the transfer back when Chelsea were really trying to make a name for themselves and buy some big players in, create the history that they didn't really have. It was roughly about £40 million, I think, when he came over from AC Milan.
Shevers, just under 40 million he was.
Yeah. And
ex-Ballon d'Or winner, huge reputation. You know, he'd proven it over in Italy. He delivered when he was playing for Dynamo Kiev. So this was a top quality centre forward. The issue that you had was when he came over to the Premier League, the league is a lot faster than what Serie A was. His best days in terms of his pace were long behind him. He would come over, I think, as a 30-year-old striker at that point. And he just never really adapted to the game. So I've just signed him for my Leverkusen side on my my old school Champy 2, 97-98, and his bagging goals. That was his time, weren't it?
He was immense in the 90s, absolutely immense. But as I said, he come over to the wrong league at the wrong time in his career. Obviously, he come for the money, but when you turn up, I think he scored 6 goals in total across his entire
Didn't
career.
do too very, very well, did he?
No, I mean, they even loaned him back out to AC Milan for another season. And he couldn't even hit a barn door there either. So he just, he completely lost it. And unfortunately, it was age taking its toll on what was a glittering career in his 20s, but not so much true. The twilight.
Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is a bit of a surprise. So it's Neymar. Neymar, specifically the transfer
Neymar, a flop.
Yes, and I'll tell you why. So there's no doubt that they spent a lot of money on him. £200 million is a huge sum of money to spend on a player.
Yeah, it's not pocket money.
He's won titles, and he scored goals. So
I don't understand the flop bit.
But when you go missing for 60 games and you've only been with them for 2 seasons because you were injured, and he's
injured in March. Every year when it's his sister's birthday.
That's the one.
Weird.
He's had altercations with fans. He's been caught abusing referees. He's had all sorts of stuff that has come against him on social media. And ultimately, for £200 million, you'd expect at least a smidgen of loyalty rather than every single month there's another reference to him going back to either Barcelona or moving over to Real Madrid. And not once does he try and shut it down. Far from it. He's, for me, absolute flop. £200 million. Yes, he scored your goals, but in terms of everything else, he's a disaster.
Fair enough. Okay. Who's your number 2?
My number 2 was the transfer of Ibrahimovic. So
yeah, I see that. Like Ibra, we all know what a glittering career he's had.
Great player. And on the face of it, it actually looked like a half decent deal. Barcelona had swapped Samuel Eto'o plus a shed load of cash for a proven striker that was going to enable them to link the play better and offer them a complete different dynamic to what they had. They had the whole tiki-taka brand of football. Bring someone else in that will allow them a plan B. And Ibra was that man. Technical, strong, good in the air, good on the ball, can bring others into play, certainly has the ego to cope with a club the size of Barcelona. However, he fell out monumentally with Guardiola, and that argument is still going on now, years and years later. Ibra still holds Guardiola responsible, saying that he wrecked and ruined his Barcelona dream, and he was the only reason. So for that reason, you've lost a great striker, a shed load of cash, and you only kept the player for 1 year.
Talk about lost. We've got someone who's found, and that's Alex. He's back in the room, I think. How are you, dude?
Having major issues here.
Oh dear, what's the matter? Internet?
The internet's down. I can't get on other laptops. I'm having to do this on my phone, and I'm not sure if my phone's working either. So yeah.
Well, we can see you. That's the main thing. We're about to reveal Bucky's number 1 on the list.
So my number 1 transfer block was the Tevez transfer from Boca Juniors over to Shanghai Sheepsig. Sheepsig? Right.
Genuine,
whatever. Find us somewhere. We were talking, the money. So if you add it all together, it actually cost them the best part of £71 million.
In terms of contracts, I was going to say, like, in terms of the actual transfer fee, it weren't a lot. It was about 9 million, wasn't it? 9.5 million.
It wasn't a lot of money at all.
But he was good, like,
paid.
Weren't he on like 700k a week or some madness like that?
After tax, he was the highest paid footballer in the world. They bought him over purely because they were fed up of not being able to win a title. By Tevez, we'll win a title. He turned up and he openly admitted he was on holiday. He got fat. And all right, he scored 20 goals, but they finished 11th in the league. And then they shipped him back again to Boca at a loss. So did they get their money's worth out of him? Absolutely not. Was he ever worth 750 grand a week after tax?
I don't think anyone is worth that money. I mean, like, the only 2 people that you can ever contemplate paying that type of money towards is
Messi and Ronaldo. I don't want to hear any other names in that list when it comes to paying anything more than $500,000 a week. But money was crazy over in China. They've obviously changed it now, haven't they? Where
all the rules
get
change
like
around there now.
dirty tax on it, and now no one wants to go and play in China, which I understand.
Yeah,
excuse me.
It's a pub league anyway. But shocking, absolutely shocking. So yeah, whether you look at it from a did the club get the target that they wanted for that level of money perspective? No. Or you look at it from the financials, no way was that value for money, and that was an absolute flop. When a player turns up and says, "I'm on holiday, I'm not actually looking to play football or score goals or win anything," I'm sorry,
state of affairs, isn't it?
A bad place. Yeah,
fair enough. Right, Alex has gone walkies again, so I'm going to go next. And my number 5 is Jackson Martinez, and Jackson Martinez's move from Porto over to Atletico Madrid. I really like Jackson Martinez. I think I thought he was a bloody good player. What's that? 33.5 mil he went for. Atletico Madrid are brilliant at doing this. They've had some of the best strikers in the world, and as soon as you lose one, you think, they're going to fall off now. They end up finding someone else. When Torres left, out he went. David Villa's in. When David Villa was gone, Forlan was slapping goals in for him.
Yep.
And they've just kept on doing it over time.
they always find someone that doesn't look like they've actually made the boil. Forlan's a great example of that. But no one gave him any credit at the point when he left the Prem.
No,
they snapped him up.
And he shared the European Golden Boot with Thierry Henry the season that he left. So, that's why Forlan isn't near my list, because, it was a flop at Man United, but it's just a different league. Jackson Martinez, he just never made it. The harder he trained, the worse he got, and he just couldn't find the back of the net. Now he's turning out for some team that are like 14th in the Portuguese league, and he's had a terrible time. So, here's my number 5. Number 4, I've gone with Savo Milosevic.
Oh,
wait, Savo Milosevic, right, is a Premier League cult hero. I love him. However, his move to Parma. Now, Parma just lost Hernan Crespo for big money to Chelsea, and they've gone in and signed someone who, who's had a good record. And he was at Real Zaragoza. He went to Zaragoza after he left Villa and had a really good goal scoring record. He's gone to Parma. First season, to be fair, weren't too bad. He was sort of like a 1 in 3, 1 in 3.5. And then after that, he literally just fell apart. And for the amount of money that was spent at the time, this is 2000 when they spent that money, 22.5 million in the year 2000 was uber
Big
mega
money.
bucks. I think
Big
it might have even been in the top 10 transfers of all time at that point. So to spend all that money and for him to fall off like that, is a flop for me. And it's a shame because, as I said, he's a Premier League cult hero, and I do love a bit of Savo. Who's number 3? Oh yes, number 3 is Bruno Cheyrou. Liverpool made a mistake here. They signed the wrong Cheyrou. Benoit Cheyrou, his brother, was brilliant footballer, uber skillful. But when Bruno was signed, they were like, "Oh yeah, he's the next Zinedine Zidane." Are you mad? And they said he was quicker than Michael Owen at the time. Are you mad? The guy's a flop. Now I know Liverpool just won the league, and we need to give them props for that. So fair play to Liverpool in the league. But over the last 20, 25 years, they have had some bad players, and they've spent a lot of money on a load of dross. But Bruno Cheyrou is definitely up there for me in in the worst players. In the biggest transfer flop for how much he was meant to be. Number 2. I've gone with a striker, Alvaro Morata. Alvaro Morata, he went for a lot of money, £59.4 million from Real Madrid to Chelsea. We forget how old he is. He's 28 now. When he made that move, he was 26. Do you know how many games he started for club when he made his move to Chelsea?
Can't be many.
Well, at 26 years old, do you think it should be a lot? 49 games he'd started for club and in the league, and that is across Real Madrid, Juve.
Yeah, that's not good.
No,
But
mate.
Madrid's a bit of a bad, that's a bad example, really. He was always going to be playing back up to the players that they had there. So
You don't have to be.
really
You don't have to be
example.
backup. No, I'm not buying that. You don't have to be a backup. If you're 26 years old, well, he left when he was 24. I don't really think that's young. That's the time when he should be.
Who are you going to take out of that Real Madrid side to say Morata's better than you? At the time when he was over there, who would
Well, you rotate your squad, don't you? Look at Man United, and we were talking. No, listen to this.
Egos are too big.
No, it doesn't matter about ego. It's about management, isn't it? And like you look at Man United at the time, the four strikers there were York, Cole, Shearer, Sheringham, and there were. I keep saying Shearer, Sheringham, except Shearer and Sheringham obviously were strike partners in England. Solskjaer and Sheringham. They were able to rotate the four of them. Man United again, they were able to do it again when they had like Tevez and Ronaldo and they're able to do major bits then. And yeah, it's poor. Is not a very good player. And for the amount of money that they spent on him, you expect a hell of a lot more. So yeah, he is in my list, and he's at number 2.
Number one.
Number 1. Well, it's a defender. And
Really?
as far as I'm concerned, it can only be one.
Oh no! Oh,
Okay.
he was a calamity when he went over to Real Madrid. I don't think did he only play one game. Didn't he score an own goal in his debut or something like that?
He scored an onky and got sent off on his debut. And in the 3 years that he was there, he only played 14 games in the league.
Wow.
And it's a shame. And injuries savaged him, so it is a shame on that front. But when you spend that sort of money on that, once again, the time when he went, £16.4 million doesn't sound like a lot of money, but in the early 2000s for a defender,
Yeah, that was big
that
money.
is giant bucks. So yeah, it is a flop for me. But
He was a
before,
good player.
he was good. He was a good player, but he flopped.
He spent more
But
time in Europe.
before we move on to Alex, I do have to give an honourable mention, and that is to Sebastian Scalacci. And the reason why I do that is because I made a massive faux pas in 2010. Come on, Scalacci, sign on the dotted line, because he had a rich history and that didn't age well. So I had to give him an honourable mention. Lord.
I don't wish you to find some of my Facebook comments, mate, because I've had some horrendous takes over the years.
To be fair, I'm going to let Gav off on this one, because to say that on Facebook about that player is one thing, but to come on here live and tell everyone that Pele was a fraud, that's
Pele is a fraud.
whole new level.
Look, we know Pele's a fraud. Let's move on. Alex, number 5.
Number 5.
Alex, go on, save us.
Number 5. Sorry, what did you say, Bucky?
Save us. Save us. Sort it out.
Save us. Number 5 for me. He basically got this move off the back of a good World Cup, and it was a fairly decent World Cup and an extremely good goal in the knockout stages of that World Cup. But it's James Rodriguez, number 5, who he had a couple of transfers, and it's not the one that he went from Porto to Monaco, because Monaco spent quite a bit of money on him at the time for a relative unknown. It's actually his move from Monaco to Real Madrid, because Monaco actually did good business out of that. They signed him for 40 million and they sold him on for a profit of nearly 30 million there. But Real Madrid spent nearly 70 million on James Rodriguez, and yes, he's played a few games for him, but when you get loaned out for a couple of years, and then not really play when you come back after those couple of years, when you've played for Bayern Munich as well, who didn't want to keep him on, nearly £70 million or euros is definitely a waste of money, and I think he can be considered a flop, considering he's 28, 29 now.
He's 28, yeah.
No one's really interested in him. He doesn't really have the required pace to come and play in the Premier League. Yeah, he might be quite technical and he might be quite skillful, but if that was the case, why aren't clubs queuing up to sign him? It's clear Real Madrid don't want him, so for me, that is that's a transfer flop
It's
for
an
me.
attitude thing with him.
What's that? Sorry.
I think it's an attitude thing with him. The fact that all these big clubs take him and then they immediately don't want to keep him.
I don't think it's an attitude thing. I don't think he comes across as someone with a bad attitude.
Don't think he's as good as I don't think he's as good as what he made out to be. What people are buying him for.
Who's your number 4?
Number 4, Angel Di Maria.
That's a shout.
Again, another transfer involving Real Madrid, but this time going out of Real Madrid and actually being signed by Manchester United. Again, very similar. Is a very similar price to what Real Madrid bought James Rodriguez for, just under the 70 million euro mark. Now, Angel Di Maria, he's actually had a pretty decent career. He's actually a pretty decent player. However, the reason why I think this was a flop was just because at Manchester United, it just didn't work. Just didn't work. He came in, he had that one good game at Leicester where he scored a pretty decent goal and he set up a couple of others, and then it was like, oh, here we go. He's going to take over the league. And whether it was through injuries, personal issues, because I've heard there were a lot of rumours going around that he had quite a few personal issues whilst he was at Manchester United. For whatever reason, they ended up selling him a year later for for a 12 million euro loss. And he didn't really impact or help United in any way, shape or form. So, again, for me, that is a definition of a flop, really. You spent a big money on a player that you thought was going to take you to the next level. And really, he didn't. He didn't at all.
Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Fernando Torres.
Yes.
Torres. So, he was the main man at Liverpool, and for what 3 seasons, that money that they spent on him, about 35 million pounds, they really got their money's worth, and especially when they sold him for a profit on that. Problem is, again, I'm just basing it on his spell that he had at Chelsea. They spent over 50 million pounds, and it was certainly not the same Fernando Torres that was at Liverpool. Now, I saw an episode on Sky, Gary Neville's Soccer Box. To anybody who hasn't watched that, I don't know if you have. I would recommend it. They're actually pretty decent. He gets to chat one-on-one with a certain player, and they talk about their career, goals that they scored, games that they played in, and they just get their perspective. And it's this particular one that he was talking about with Steven Gerrard, and he was saying what happened. They got onto the subject of Fernando Torres, and Gerrard seems to think the reason why it didn't work out for him at Chelsea is because at Liverpool, he was their main man. It was all about, Gerrard said their game plan was basically, it was geared to and setting up the shape to release Fernando Torres for him to then do his thing.
Yeah.
However, when he went to Chelsea, he's gone from being a sort of the big fish in the small pond, if you will, into a team full of big fishes, lots of superstars, and he was just another number. And Fernando Torres, his personality seems to be somebody who needs to be loved, who feels like he's the main man, and he just wasn't that at Chelsea, and he just could never ever replicate that form. And I think the whole Chelsea experience was summed up in that one moment against Man United where got put through on goal, great skill to get past. Was it Van der Sar in goal?
Yeah, he did all the hard work, didn't he?
And he just put it wide, and that kind of summed up his Chelsea career in a nutshell. And that whole situation there, and I mean, 50 million pounds spent, and they ended up leaving on a free, pretty much, to AC Milan after a couple of loan spells.
I mean, he scored the goal that got him to the Champions League final.
That's
it.
Unbelievable.
Unfortunately, one goal don't make a career.
8 goals, 10 goals in the Premier League. That was all he ever got, which for 50 million to never go into double figures in the Prem. It's poor.
Not good enough. Who's your number 2?
Number 2, we're going to go back a few years for this one, and it's a guy that I've mentioned more than once. I seem maybe he's done something to me in a previous life, but I promise you he hasn't. But this was an all-time flop But Denilson, Real Betis. Where to begin with this one? I don't even recall that Real Betis signed him in the summer after the World Cup that year, and I can't remember him actually playing all that many games for Brazil or having that much of an impact in that World Cup
I don't remember him having much to do in that World Cup either.
No. And when you look at his career, you look at the transfers that he's done, all of them have been either free transfers or loan, or the one that sticks out, Real Betis. So then they played just shy of £30 million.
Which was a world record at the time.
Shall we not forget? 1998, £30 million. I don't know how much that would equate to being.
That was a world record at the time.
Yes.
He went for a world record fee, and then even all that.
Exactly. So God knows what that equates to in today's market, or today's market prior coronavirus. But do I need to say more?
No.
As I say, you look at the rest of his transfer. He left the following season. He went on loan back to Brazil, and then again on loan again, and then he knocked around a couple of years at Real Betis, but then didn't really do anything, and then he left on a free transfer a few years later to Bordeaux, and then nobody ever paid a cent for him after that in transfer fees. So he was a flop. He didn't live up to his expectation, certainly didn't live up to his transfer fee, and maybe because it did a few stepovers, and that was it. Absolute. And it had to go some for me to beat that, because that was an all-time flop for me. But I suppose an even bigger flop, and he's very much still playing now, but it's Philip Coutinho. And that's my number one. Ooh. Philip Coutinho is the transfer flop for me of all time. Liverpool, they have, and this is part of why Liverpool have grown and to become the club that they are now. But they signed him for just over £11 million, and they ended up selling him for £130 million. And Barcelona, who I think could feature on this list quite a few times, because their transfer record in the last 5-6 seasons, and Gav and I and my mate Martin, who's also been on the show as well, have had a little Twitter thread of all the transfer buys that Barcelona have done in this most recent period of their history. And they have wasted a hell of a lot of money on some really, really average to okay players who really Barcelona should be shopping in that market. And Barcelona, I mean, I suppose the other honourable mention could be made to Dembele as well, who they signed for a lot of money too. But 130 million on a player who occasionally scores a worldie, who occasionally scores, who can go through rich vein of form, like 3 or 4 games where he'll score like 3 or 4 goals and set up a couple, and then go missing anonymous for 10 to 15 games is stupid. I don't know who was in charge of Barcelona when they decided to make that move, but they need to be run out of town, and I'm not surprised that Barcelona fans haven't done so, especially when he went on loan to Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich don't want to keep him. I mean, that says it all, really. Yeah. So for me, that is a clear transfer flop, worst of all time.
That's fair enough. I want to know what you people think at home, and whether you agree with our list, whether you disagree. I mean, like there's multiple names that can be put out there. You know, honourable mentions to Andy Carroll, Christian Benteke. You mentioned Dembele, Nicholas Bentner. You know, there's everyone who Spurs signed when they sold Gareth Bale, you know, apart from Eriksen, you know, there is a whole host. Paulinho, we probably could have done one for each club. You know, Liverpool have had loads of flops, Arsenal loads of flops, Man United loads of flops, but I would love to know what your lists are. You're more than welcome to throw it in the comments, tweet us, or message us on Facebook. All the links are down below here at 2 Up Top Football on every single social media platform. Next week's show, we're doing top 5 managers in the Premier League history. Now, I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as many people think, put it that way. And we'll, myself and Alex will be back tomorrow lunchtime, going back over all the games from tonight, which is, well, say all the games, the 2 games, as well as looking forward to the weekend's fixtures. But yeah, any questions, queries, get in contact, get in touch, and let us know at Top Football on all social media. But for myself and the boys, goodbye.